events that we grew.
Right.
You know? So
Right.
we grew our event in Madrid. It's a yearly event. Each
Yep.
year, you know, we were able to attract better quality of speakers. We had a better program. Bigger brands would decide to partner with us, and then
Right.
they stayed with us.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, we also started receiving a lot of interest, you know, from other countries and other regions to actually.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Sporting Global podcast. And today I'm here with Jan from World Football Summit. And Jan, first of all, thanks for taking the time. How's everything going?
Very good. Well, very busy at the moment. We're 5 weeks away from World Football Summit Europe, which will take place on the 28th and 29th of September in Sevilla. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do from now till the event. Yeah. But very excited because it's going to be a great event. So,
absolutely.
But happy.
And it's a pleasure having you here. I know, as you're saying, like, it's a very hectic time, but it's important, you know, to take the time as well to share some knowledge, share some inspiration for the upcoming weeks ahead. And maybe it's a little way for you to have like a small break, I guess, in a sense. Take that, you know, breather before you go get back to
Absolutely.
The hectic schedule. But I think we're just going to dive right into it. And I wanted to, you know, for the people that are listening to, we're always asking like a little bit about your background, how you ended up in the sport industry. Talk a little about how your journey in the sport industry started and where you ended up today.
Well, it's a bit of a, I mean, I actually wasn't looking to enter the sports industry.
Right.
But it's true that I've always had a big passion for sports, yeah, and especially for football. No, so ever since I was a kid, I'm half Italian, half Dutch, but I've lived most of my life in Spain, in Madrid. So yeah, all of those countries have a very big footballing heritage. No, and I'm fans in Italy of Lazio. In Holland of Ajax because of my father, and in Spain, where I've lived most of my life, in Madrid, of Real Madrid. No,
right.
So yeah, football has been very close to me. I'm one of the co-founders and owners of World Football Summit. So actually, the seed of World Football Summit is a company called Nexus, which I started back in 2006. Yeah. What Nexus does is promote commercial relations between Spain and different countries. Right. And we did that mainly by helping business delegations that came from abroad. We help them network and create and engage with potential investors, clients, customers, etc. Mm-hmm. And to do that, we organized a lot of events.
Right.
So Nexus became specialized in event organization.
Yeah.
And one of the problems that Nexus had, though, was that some of the events that we organized did not happen on a yearly basis. No, we had clients whom we organized an event 1 year, and maybe, you know, we wouldn't do another one for another 3-4 years. No, so there wasn't a lot of repeat business.
Right.
And but back in 2012, I collaborated in the organization of an event which is now called South Summit, which is one of the biggest startup events and entrepreneurial events in Spain. The idea was very close to what was being done in other countries, in the US, and for example in Ireland, such as Web Summit.
Right.
In Spain at the time, an event that, you know, would bring together the main startups of the Spanish startup ecosystem did not exist, and so I collaborated in this event in order to bring them together and to attract investors, both national and international. So I worked in that project.
Nice.
And just that event became a very big event, and it became a company in itself, because each year the event becomes bigger, more prestigious, more people come. So
Yeah.
I actually participated in that first edition. I was one of the people who actually had the idea and developed the concept of the whole event. But after the first year, we left. So at Nexus, one of the ideas that we had was to find another niche in another industry where that meeting point did not exist.
Right.
And actually, it was one of our employees at Nexus who now works for La Liga. He's the head of La Liga in Africa, in South Africa.
Nice.
Marcos, who had the idea and saying, "Listen, why don't we do something around the football industry?" No, and at the time, that was back in 2015. Well, there was a lot of talk about football, becoming an industry and developing really, a whole sector around it. That it's not only sports, but there's a whole economy around it.
Right.
Which isn't evident, because maybe 10, 12 years ago, having a football club in Spain and anywhere in the world really was probably not a good business, but things changed. There were and there's been a huge development,
Right.
so we had the idea, we started looking, and we were surprised to see that in Spain, a country with such a huge footballing heritage, an event that would bring together the key stakeholders of this industry did not exist. So we had the idea, we developed it, and we decided, to put all our efforts into making it happen. So really, how I got into the football industry was not because I had, I wanted to work in the industry, but really because we found a great opportunity.
Right.
We found it, we took it, and obviously we developed it properly.
Right. And that's the beauty of sports too. There's so many pathways into the industry, and sometimes it's just finding that niche, that gap that is missing, and execute it, and execute it well.
Yeah, exactly. No, and we were surprised there was no other event in Spain which was similar to what we wanted to create. But we did see that in other countries, especially in the UK, they did exist. So obviously, there was a market for it, and that was important. And then it was all about developing it properly. And we didn't want it to be anyhow local. And I think you can obviously see that by the name. It was very ambitious, World Football Summit. But we thought, Spain had the best ingredients, to make a football industry event a success, not only in Spain, but globally, because one, the footballing heritage that Spain had is incredible.
Yeah.
But two, I think, Spain is a great location to do any kind of event. So and events take place in Spain on any industry. So I think we came at the right moment. And we had the right ingredients to make it a success. Obviously, it wasn't easy because the football industry, the sports industry, is also quite a closed industry. And we had no contacts at all. Nobody really knew us. So we had this grandiose idea with this grandiose name. And few people actually believed that we could make it happen. And the first editions of the events are always the most challenging ones. So because as I will say, things happen very much at the last moment with events. So we had to, work very hard, and then we actually saw the fruits like one month, 2 months before the event was happening. But we did a successful first edition, and that first success, allowed us to grow. In events, very much a snowball effect. And once your first event is successful, you can build on that success, and it becomes bigger and bigger each year. Absolutely. Unless a pandemic happens, and that's
you still made that work too. So
Yeah.
here we are. But I wanted to actually, it's a nice segue because I mean, like obviously since 2016, right? You guys have held 12 events, had over 18,500 people through the gates, and I mean, like looking back now, like what have been some key lessons that you had along the way from the events, from like the journey since 2016?
Yeah. Well, there have been many challenges. No, obviously the first one was to actually build a very strong brand. No,
Right.
and build, make sure that the right people, you surround yourself with the right people.
Right.
Not only in the team
Yeah.
that you build organizing the events, but
Right.
also the speakers and the partners that you manage to convince and that they go on board. No, so that was the main challenge I think that we had, especially on our first on our first edition.
Right.
As before, few people thought that we would bring, we would be able to make this happen. But we had a few key people, that really, saw the potential the event had and gave us the necessary support that was needed, to build on the platform. And then actually, if I tell you the truth, after 2016, the growth has been, I wouldn't say easy, but it has been, I would say, relatively, relatively, yeah, easy. I would say, in the sense that it made sense that we grew.
Right.
So
Right.
we grew our event in Madrid. It's a yearly event.
Yep.
Each year, we were able to attract better quality of speakers. We had a better program. Bigger brands would decide to partner with us, and then
Right.
they stayed with us.
Yeah.
And then obviously, we also started receiving a lot of interest, from other countries and other regions to actually develop
Yeah.
our event there. So actually, in 2016, we did our first edition. Then we did 2017, and in 2018 already we reached an agreement to develop our first event outside of Europe. And we did that in Asia.
Yeah.
So in April 2019, we did our first event of WFS Asia.
Mm.
And precisely during the event, we also reached an agreement to develop our first edition in Africa as well,
Right.
which we were going to celebrate in March 2020. So our idea, that also made us rebrand a little bit what World Football Summit is. And
Yeah.
our event in Spain, we rebranded it as WFS Europe.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
this is
That
our
makes sense.
European edition. So
Yeah.
even though it's a very global event,
Right.
and for example, now in Sevilla, we're expecting people from over 100 different countries
Right.
attending
Wow. Great.
Sevilla in person.
Yeah.
Obviously, 90% of the attendees are European.
Yeah.
So bringing our summit to another region would allow us to grow our platform in that other region.
For
So
sure.
obviously in Asia, 90% of the attendees were Asian.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Africa, we were forced to cancel it in March 2020,
Mm.
but we are relaunching that event now for November this year. And there again, 90%
Yeah. Yeah.
of the attendees are going to be African, no? And so will the speakers, the partners,
Yeah.
and the topics that we will be
Right.
promoting and generating, no?
Yeah.
So yeah, the greatest challenge we had, was at the beginning, and then it was really a question of keep going,
Right.
and ensuring that the platform grew, that our program, the speakers, the partners, that we provide them a good service, that they stay with us, and
Yeah.
that they grow with us, because
Right.
if we grow, it's in their interest to stay with us. No, so
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I mean, like it's you always need to see a little bit of growth, in order to keep pushing and expanding. So whether that's this much or this much, it's part of that kind of like ever evolving, step by step action plan that you have. And I wanted to kind of like go a little bit back, I guess, like forward to the upcoming event that is happening, obviously in September now, and obviously that's the World Football Summit Europe event at the end of September. And leading up to that, like, what have been some of your key priorities, and what are some of the things that people can expect at the event in Sevilla?
Yeah. Well, in Sevilla, obviously we've had a few challenges. The first was actually to move to Sevilla. So
Yeah.
we last year we did our fifth edition. We did it at the Wanda Metropolitano. So all of our European or Spanish editions have been celebrated in Madrid. And we were approached by Sevilla, and Sevilla, they loved our event. They saw it, and they wanted to bring it to the city. No, so we obviously went there, analyzed the situation, and obviously, and we reached an agreement with Sevilla, but with the city of Sevilla to bring it there. Obviously, Sevilla is a magnificent city. It's beautiful. I had been already several times, but a decision had to be taken, and obviously we discussed also before deciding on it with many of our partners, many of our collaborators, to know what they thought. And I wouldn't say I was surprised, but what really strengthened our decision to take it to Sevilla was the response that we had from everybody around us, and the response was extremely positive. Sevilla is a great city. It has very easy access from all over the place. The venue where we are going to do the event is the best venue World Football Summit has had by far, especially for a B2B event. And obviously, well, it has two very strong first division clubs, like Sevilla and Betis, which were extremely excited with an event like ours taking place. We have very strong institutional background from the city, from actually the Junta de Andalucía, the community of Andalucía as well. So in that sense, it was fairly easy at the end to take the decision, but it was one of our key priorities to understand what they thought about us moving to Sevilla, and the response was extremely positive. And then in terms of priorities, one of the greatest challenges we have obviously is developing, bringing the right people in, and developing a very strong program for the event. This year is going to be our most ambitious program. We have 3 stages, and we've developed 11 different tracks. The idea of developing those tracks is that if you actually attend every single panel at World Football Summit, you have a 360-degree vision of everything that is happening within the football industry. So the tracks are around performance, it's around sports tech, it's around governance, it's around women's football, esports, broadcasting, Web3, sustainability. So, we have speakers, we have companies, from all of these separate sectors that make the football industry what it is today.
And I mean, like, just showcasing I guess the total picture, of like what the football industry entails, and today more than ever, I mean, like, it's become a massive business and industry that covers a lot of areas that you wouldn't look back at 5 years ago from
exactly. It's that football, and I guess sports, is very transversal. Any company in the world, in whatever sector, could have a link to football or to sports in one way, whether they work directly for it, or they it's a company that is sponsoring and uses the power of football to get visibility. I always say that football for me is the greatest generator of content in the world. In every single radio, newspaper, television, there's always news about football or about sports every single day of the year. So it's impressive because actually as an industry itself is not that big. Yeah, because I always give the example of Real Madrid. Real Madrid has an annual revenue of 850 million euros a year, and that's the same revenue of 2 Apple stores in New York, so
yeah.
but as a brand, Real Madrid and Apple are not too far away,
right?
So that also, I think, explains the potential of the industry to grow, to really monetize all those billions of fans that are around the world.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the biggest sport in the world for a reason, right? And I mean, like, it's just part of like the evolution and embracing, technology and innovation. And speaking of, technology and innovation, like, how is kind of like, I guess in a sense, the growth and the changes in sports technology and innovation impacted your events, like, talking about startups, competitions, topics. I know you touched a little bit about the topics, but perhaps kind of like go a little bit more deeper into it and how that have impacted your events more recently, I guess.
Yeah, well, one of the main impacts that technology has had as an event organizer itself is the event technology that surrounds an event like ours, and that has developed, for example, hugely in the past years. And in that sense, actually, the pandemic has helped us. So when the pandemic started, well, obviously at the beginning, and all our events were canceled. We were not too sure what to do, and whether to do an online summit or a Zoom summit. And actually, we have a very powerful app that allows you to network with all the attendees at World Football Summit.
Yeah.
And the company that creates that app during the pandemic, they immediately pivoted so that app could actually organize online events, and that you couldn't only engage with the attendees, but that you could actually organize video calls. And those video calls, people could interact, could ask questions, participate in. So
nice.
We actually, in 2020, during the pandemic, we organized our first online summit. We did a few webinars, and then we organized what actually have been our biggest events to date. So in our first online summit, which was in July 2020, we had close to 4,000 attendees from 125 different countries, and we did the whole event during the course of 5 days, so that the topics were spread between 3 or 4 hours at a time that could work for the whole world. So we started at 12 at noon in Spain, and finished at 3:30, 4 o'clock. And for those in America, if they woke up very early, they could participate live. And for those in Asia, for example, if they could participate very late. So and now actually we are incorporating all of that technology to our on-site events. So last year, when we did for the first time in 2 years our first on-site event, it was actually our first hybrid event. We now have the technology for anybody who cannot travel on site to the event to actually participate online, to actually see all of the panels, to interact with all of the attendees, to also interact with the panels. So in that sense, obviously the technology has really improved our event. And then in terms of technology at World Football Summit as a topic, it's one of the hugest topics that we have. Actually, we also have some side events apart from World Football Summit. One of them is called the Football Innovation Forum. We've done 2 editions of that event, and it's focused very much on technology, how technology is enabling football as an industry to grow.
Right.
I was saying football has billions of fans across the world.
Yeah.
But the great challenge that football has is to monetize all of those fans in
Right.
order to grow the revenues of the clubs, the leagues, and the industry as a whole.
Right.
And technology is what is allowing those monetizations. And another thing which is very important right now, if you look at everything that is around Web3, blockchains, NFTs, you name it,
Right.
sports is at the epicenter of all of that technology. So
Yeah.
so whether it is cryptocurrencies that use sports to gain more visibilities, or companies like SoRare, like Socios.com, which have
Right.
grown and have sports at their center of their business model.
Right.
And that is and that happens now because of what I was saying before. Sports has such a huge voice and reaches
Yeah.
so many people, and these new technologies that are rising are essential for the football industry, for the sports industry as a whole, to grow. And for them, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it's a critical part of the development of the sports, of the engagement with the fans, the monetization. So there's a lot of factors involved, and I mean, like it's kind of like in a way as well. You kind of like a lot of the sport industry and the football industry and the clubs had to adjust and adapt very fast in the pandemic, and I think that showcases as well in a sense with you guys too. You had to adapt and you had to stay on top of like what are the trends, what are the topics, right, that are happening in order to cover those. And I think that leads me a little bit about to talking a little about tips, advice that you have for sports students and professionals here, like looking to get into the football industry. First and foremost, like one, I guess in a sense, from a general level, what are some ways that people can attend the event in Sevilla that are coming up now? And second, like, what would be some tips that you have seen, working so close with the key stakeholders in the football industry, over some tips and advice for sports students, that are looking to get into the football industry?
Yeah. Well, for one, I would definitely advise them to come to World Football Summit and to attend it, just so you know a little bit what they can expect. As I was saying before, it's going to be our biggest event to date. We are going to have close to 2,500 people on site, 1,000 tuning in online, people from traveling to Sevilla from more than 100 different countries.
Yeah.
We're going to have over 150 speakers and organizing 45 panels divided in 3 different stages. We've also, there are certain topics that are going to, be very important. I think the role that women have also in the sports and football industry is very important. We actually took a pledge together with the organization Women in Football that at least 30% of speakers would be female, and I think we're going to be able to better that figure very well. We have 10%. Obviously, we're very aware also of everything that is happening around the world. So 10% of our ticketing sales is going to be donated to Common Goal, an organization of which we are members since they started back in 2017, and that money is going to be distributed among NGOs that use the power of football in the Ukraine. So there's also some social and in terms of, so I think one, it should be an unmissable event, and to enter the football industry, to enter the sports industry, I think meeting people in person, seeing them face to face is extremely important. But you also have to do it properly, and there's a skill to do that, and obviously the first, to participate at World Football Summit, you enter our website and there are 4 different ticketing options. We have a VIP. We have a VIP ticket. We have a normal delegate pass, and then we have 2 online opportunities. to actually access it online if you cannot travel to Sevilla. But what I always say is people that go to an event, it's very important for them to properly prepare the event, So actually know exactly who is going to be there, maybe approach them through the WFS app, but approach them in a smooth way. People are extremely busy. And I always say, many times people approach me and ask me for advice. And many times, depending on I always try and reply to everybody, but I always, sometimes someone really properly writes an email. They know what I'm doing. They've studied who I am, what I could do for them, or what they could do for me. And that always eases the first approach. But I mean, I think for anybody who wants to enter the sports industry, in an event like World Football Summit, there are hundreds of opportunities. It's up to you to really, make sure that you seek them properly, that you have a good approach to the people who are attending the event, and try, and do something for them rather than asking that they do something for you, right? Because they don't know you at all. But if your approach is, I would like to help you with this and this and that, because I've seen that you need help in this and this and that, I think, the response you're probably going to get is going to be a lot better. So, and, I always say, Google it, how to approach people. And it's all explained there, and it's not science fiction, and it's a skill. And it's a skill, and you have to learn it. And if you do it properly, you have multiple opportunities, because the football industry is filled with companies. A club is a company, and all of them have open positions, and everybody is looking for people that are going to add value to their company. So if you approach those people and they see that you're there to add value to them, I think the entrance is going to be a lot easier and the response is going to be a lot more positive.
And I mean, like, at the end of the day, you just need to get out there, right, and practice, and take that step and reach out to people. And then, as a kind of add-on to that, as well as you were talking about, it's you got to do the research, like look up the companies, look up the people, try to understand like where they're coming from, their story a little bit, and see where you can add on, so you are better prepared. And the more prepared you are, a little bit easier that conversation will go. It still might be challenging for a lot of people, and it's part of the game, but the more you practice in an event like that, I mean, like, it's 2 days, right? I mean, like, imagine how many people you can speak to. So, as a conclusion, and I know we're running out of time, first of all, Jan, I would like to thank you for taking the time, of course, and sharing your insights and story. And then for those of you that have been listening here all the way at the end, make sure to like the video, subscribe as well, and sign up for the World Football Summit event. And we both will be there, so we hope to see all of you there. And as a little tiny thing, attend our presentation as well that we're having. But yeah, Jan, it was a pleasure having you here, and thanks once again for taking the time.
No, thank you very much for the invite, for the talk, and I thank you also for partnering and supporting an event like ours. And we're really looking forward to meeting in person in Sevilla in a few weeks, and strengthening our partnership.
Absolutely, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're excited to be part of it. And again, like meeting face to face. So before we wrap up, Jan, I have like one little challenge for you that we have to do. It's like part of our podcast tradition. So before we wrap up, I have to teach you a little bit Norwegian.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what we have to do. So with every video we do, we always finish with "Vi snakkes," which means "see you later" in Norwegian. So that's what you have to say.
Vi snakkes.
There you go. Great job. All right. Thank you so much, Jan. And everyone, have a good one.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.